In this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can take something like this, which sort of looks a little pre-visi or like PlayStation 2 graphics. It's okay to bash it. I made this, so yeah, roast it in the comments if you want. But taking something like this, which I did in Blender, and going more towards something like this, which has a lot more texture, and I find it a lot easier to get this kind of stuff physically or practically than getting something like this in Blender. I find it quite difficult to get to that same level. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this practically at home.
Wait, hold on. This is practical?
Yeah, this is practical, and I'll show you how to do it in your backyard.
With a box of scraps!
Quick disclaimer. But yeah, like lots of movies did this back in the day. I feel like it's not as used nowadays, but like Lord of the Rings did it. The prequel Star Wars movies, as well as of course the original trilogy. But the prequels really took it to another level by doing a lot of the environments with miniatures and then putting people into those miniatures. So that's what I'm going to show you today. You start off by storyboarding. Storyboarding is great because you got to get your ideas down in the cheapest way possible. So sketch something up like this, and then you can take that and figure out what you need to build, how you need to shoot it. And then I'll show you how to put the people in using Blender. First step is you got a storyboard. And then I'll show you how to film the stuff too. I used a Edelkrone electronic jib, but you do not need to use that. You can also just use like your phone or a DSLR. I'll also link a video down below on how to make your own like DIY crane or jib pretty cheaply. Getting into the build, I used for the bulk of the structure expanded polystyrene foam. You can also use extruded polystyrene foam. It's EPS versus XPS. XPS has a really good texture because it's not all like blown up into those little balls that you see in like packing foam. But I just had a bunch of EPS lying around, so that's what I used. And then for a lot of the rocks, I went to my local hobby store and got a bunch of rock molds for like terrain building, like think model trains, that kind of thing. And then you just mix up some plaster, go to the hardware store, get some plaster of Paris, you mix that up, make a bunch of rocks. There's also a method using tinfoil where you can just crumple up a bunch of tinfoil and pour plaster into that and pull stuff that looks pretty rock-like. I'll link a video down below. And actually in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, they used straight up like a heavy-duty tinfoil for a lot of the rocks in the miniature minecart sequence. Once you have a rough idea of the shape you're looking for, you can start cutting up your foam. And I was using a rasp and like a box cutter blade and sticking it together with toothpicks and Elmer's glue for keeping everything together. I also built a little makeshift tent outside with some plastic and lighting stands to keep all the little foam bits inside, and then I shop vac them up later, so I'm not just like blowing around a bunch of foam bits out into the world. Also, make sure to wear a mask and eye protection, and be safe with blades. If you're under 18, make sure you're getting adult supervision and guidance from somebody that knows what they're doing. If you're using EPS like me, then I recommend covering the model with plaster once you've got the structure down so that the cells are not just exposed and you see the texture of all those little foam balls on the surface. But after I was done with that, I got really antsy and wanted to use my new jib, so I just started testing, shooting little mini tests, getting a feel for it, and then I brought it outside to shoot it on the model and get a feel for that as well. Trying out different angles and things. And a big note here is you want to get the camera really close down to the model, otherwise it'll feel like the scale is kind of just wrong, because when you're filming a landscape in real life, you're not like 150 feet in the air most of the time, unless you're doing some like drone shot or something like that. So to do these sweeping shots, just like try to get as low down to the model as possible. And another important thing is you want to be shooting on a really wide lens, and you want your aperture like closed all the way down so that as much of your model is in focus as possible. So that will mean that you'll need a lot of light because that aperture is so small. Then for this next part, if you were going to want to put people into your model, you'll need a 3D model, so you can go online and find some like free character models, or I'm going to be using the program called Mixamo, I don't even know how you pronounce it. I ended up finding some free character models and then just adjusting them and sculpting and texturing them to match my actors. This is called a digital double, or digi-double for short, as it's commonly known. But once we're in Mixamo, we can either use one of their pre-existing models, or you can upload your own, which I did. And after getting your character loaded in, which takes a second, and then auto rigging, which is just putting dots onto the specific points of movement, you can pick from any of their animations in their library, which are all free. You just have to make an Adobe account. But you can make any adjustments like speed or arm width, and then you download your animation. You're going to need to get your scene tracked in Blender, which is sort of its own tutorial, and there are a lot of people that have explained it much better than I could. But once you've tracked it all and you've set up your scene, you can bring in your animated characters from Mixamo and place them right in, and then set up a basic plane as a shadow catcher so that you can render two separate passes, one of just your characters and then one of just their shadows, so you can really dial in the color, because I found it was difficult to get the right black values for the shadows versus the characters themselves. So I just found it easier to do them separately and then dial it in DaVinci Resolve, which is where I did the final composite for this test shot. And if you followed all those steps, then you should end up with something like this. And again, this is just a test shot, so it's not perfect by any means. It's just we filmed the sort of midway point of building this model and then threw in some digital doubles. And that's sort of the process, the basic process for getting a final shot. We were just figuring this out as we went along. Then with the testing out of the way, we move into painting up the model itself. So starting off for the rocks, I'm painting a dark color first and then dry brushing afterward with a lighter color to get the rocky texture. And then once the paint is dry, we can move on to covering the model in snow. And so the first step in that is painting Elmer's glue onto the model so that the snow has something to stick to, and then you take this like fake snow flocking type stuff and you dust it over the model, and it'll stick to that glue and stay down. Now I just happened to do a snow environment for this shot, so I was using snow, but if you were doing something in like a forest or something like that, then you'd be using some different kind of material for this step, whether it's a grass flocking or you got like some fake trees or something like that. But this step is really where you can run wild with your creativity and make the environment look like whatever you want to. But with those steps done, you've got a final model. I just happened to add some like hot glue icicles, which are really easy. You just like squirt out some hot glue and stick them on. I feel like I got the scale wrong for them, but I didn't really care that much. I thought it looked cool enough, so I kept them. All in all, I think this model only took like 2 days to make, which is pretty sweet. And I just feel like I was able to get a lot closer to photorealism by doing this practically than doing it in Blender. I wish I could do this kind of stuff in Blender to this level, but I don't have the skills for it. So I'd love for you guys to do this too. I'd love to see what you guys can come up with. I also went ahead and 3D scanned the model with my phone just so I could throw it into Blender, get some like crazy wide shots too. Then with the same process that we tested before and some added sound design, you can end up with something like this.
Incredible. Did you know about this?
No. But maybe Gedney did. Let's sit down.
Getting you all the answers.
So now you know how to build and film miniatures at home. And now that you have a miniature set built, you can actually go in and take pictures or little clips and stuff for like green screen backgrounds. That's what I did for this as well. That's all I've got for this video. I hope you liked it. And I think next time I'm going to try to do a creature effects video, so stay tuned for that one. Bye!